Hi, this is Ray here from Gamma Ray Crafts. I'm here just to do another feather video for everyone. Everyone seems to be really enjoying these so far. First, I wanted to show you, this is one of the first feathers I posted up on my Instagram account. It's all dry now. I've actually gone and painted the edges of the canvas, but I thought you might like to see it actually kept the color really nicely, and they do dry up really well. So we're going to do another feather this size. It's 3 inches by 9 inch canvas. The one I'm doing today isn't the 3D canvas, it's just a standard depth canvas. It is the gallery finish on the back, and I've already taped the edges. So I'm going to go ahead, get this one out of the way so I don't get any fresh paint on it. So the first thing, and I mentioned this in the last video, is we want to put down a really fairly thin base coat of paint on here. What I'm finding is if you get the base coat too thick, you actually end up getting puddles of paint along the edge of the feather, and it kind of hides some of the color, or creates some like dams on the side, which ends up not kind of being super attractive in the final piece. So I'm going to put down my base paint. The base paint, it's not what it looks like on the container. It's actually, I use a mix of titanium white with a little bit of the Artist Loft metallic white, a little bit of the Artist Loft opalescent medium, and then mix that about 1 part paint to about 3 parts floetrol, and then add a little bit of water to give it like a warm honey consistency. If you do add water to your paints, you want to make sure you're using distilled water, and add, you really don't want to add very much water to it. You want to, too much water will make it so that you lose kind of the polymers that hold the paint together. So you want to keep any water added kind of to a minimum. So there we go. This is a fairly thinner layer than I would do for most of the other styles of painting that I do, because we don't want it to be building up too much as we do these string pulls. So for my colors for this one, I'm mixing both kind of artist level paints and kind of your craft level paints. All the artist level paints are mixed 1 part paint to 3 parts floetrol, and all the craft level paints, the ones that come in the little barrels, those are mixed 1 part paint to 1 part floetrol, because they're not as, like the actual pigments in them are not as dense, so you do need to use more paint when you're using those sorts of paints. So what we're going to do is I've already measured out my string. So I have a 9 inch canvas. I've measured it out a little over 12 inches, so I have a little bit of extra length, so I have something to work with. And I'm only going to put paint on maybe 7 inches of it, because I want to leave a little bit of room on here for the stem of the feather. So I'm going to go ahead. I've already picked my colors out. I'm doing kind of a, Valentine's Day is coming up, so I'm doing kind of a very spring Valentine's Day kind of color theme. So I'm just go ahead. I'm just gonna paint my colors in. There isn't really a rhyme or reason as to how long you want each section to be. I do like to kind of mix it up, like some longer sections and some shorter sections. I do find the silver on the white background, I try to make it a little bit smaller, and definitely sandwiching it between colors, not putting it at the end, because it doesn't show up as well as some of the other metallics. But it's subtle, but I do really like how the silver pops, even though it is a little more subtle. I just keep adding my colors in here. of the things I've really been enjoying with these feathers is that they're really actually pretty quick to do, and they kind of are a really great place to do a lot of experimentation with color, because unlike when you're doing flip cups, you don't get a lot of the colors like mixing as much. When you're like flipping the paint, you're getting lots of like paint mixing, and you have to worry as much about like, you know, if you put orange next to blue, are they gonna mix and make kind of a muddy section? And with this, because each color is pretty separate on the feather, you have a little bit more leeway on how your colors are going on there. It allows you to be a little more adventurous with color. Okay, so I've got the section I wanted to get covered on the string cover, just with my mix of pinks, couple little hints of silver in here. So I'm gonna go ahead and carefully pick up my string. And what I find is that putting this down at a little bit of a bend definitely gives you a nicer finished look for your feather. So I'm going to try and put it down about an inch from the top. After once I get it started on here, it's a lot easier to manipulate, setting it down, get a nice little arc on it. And then the trick here is you want to pull out over and up. And the further over you pull, the wider your feather is going to be. So you can decide, depending on how far you pull over before pulling up, that is going to affect the final width of your feather. There we go, and I tend to narrow it up a little bit at the top, and then when you get to the very, very top, you kind of try and let that string turn before you pull it up, just to get that last little tip of the feather up there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to try and set this back down in the paint, matching our colors back up, just to kind of reapply the paint to the string. So there we go. So now we're going to do the same thing. And once, there we go, once that string is landed, it's a lot easier to manipulate. We're going to try and line those colors up and just bring that string down right along the same spot it was that first time. And then we're just going to pull on the opposite side, pulling away. And once you get it the width you want it, pulling it up. And narrowing it a little bit up here, especially since we get closer to the edge of that canvas. And pulling kind of straight up towards the top of the canvas to let that string turn and up off the top. Okay, so I think I'm pretty happy with that. I think we matched the colors pretty even, got a pretty even spread on both sides. So the last thing we need to do is to do the center of the feather. So one more time, we're going to land this string, and then we're just going to drag it down right along that same line once more. There we go. Okay. So, last thing I'm going to do, and we'll see how this goes, because I actually just filled my torch up and I didn't think to test it out before starting the filming, but yeah, it's fine. It's going to lightly torch the outside edge of that feather just to get a little bit of, you know, little cells to kind of get that little fuzzy edge to the feather. Okay, so there we go. So I think this is my favorite kind of size canvas for these, because it's just that really long skinny canvas, fits the feathers really well, has just enough negative space, and I think I'm going to keep doing that where I'm painting the edge of the canvas one of the colors in the feather. I think that gives it a really nice kind of shadow effect. So thanks for joining me again. I'm glad everybody's enjoying the feathers. Have a good day.